Hi, this is Issei, and nice to see you again. I'm going to give you a lesson 2 today. It's still a promotional video stage at this point. So I was supposed to make 2 videos, like lesson 1 and lesson 2, but as you probably know, lesson 1 didn't end in just 1 hour. So because I keep, I have a tendency to keep talking. But that's not going to be the case on italki or when you are taking a lesson with me. I will try to, actually I have been able to teach these materials within an hour and have some exercise as well. So yeah, it's just when I'm left alone at my own device, I tend to keep talking. So I will try to be careful about that in this lesson as well, but I'm sorry if I talk too much again. But I do want to, this is because this is the promotional sort of video, and I want you to get kind of a sense of how I teach. And it's going to be like a seminar sort of a style, and whenever I see, like, I'm sitting here and sometimes I do walk, but you can ask me questions, any questions, basically. Just that doesn't have to be only about the language, culture. Of course, language is hugely based on the culture and social context. So history, any sort of, I have a background in philosophy, as I explained. So history and philosophy, and so yeah, feel free to ask me any questions at any time. I guess you can't do that now on YouTube, but you can comment and I will get back to you. Okay, so today I just want to so moving away from the auxiliary verb, which we introduced last time. That was des, the linking verb or copula, and that was linking the subject to the complement. So basically explaining the attributes of the subject. I am a student and they are delinquents or something, right? Like that. And basically a personality or any qualities that the subject possesses. That was explained with the linking verb. And this time, I guess there are many most important things in Japanese, but the first most important thing in Japanese comes here. The lesson 2, the action verbs. So yes, action verbs in Japanese we do have three groups in the action verbs. Action verbs, what are they? Well, they are the verbs that are not basically the linking verb, everything else but the linking verb. And the action verb, why are they called action verbs? Because they are activities. They yeah, basically active speaking is an activity. It takes time. Whereas I am a student, description, analytic form of the sentence doesn't consume time, right? Unless you're speaking, which is non-active speaking, so activity, right? So we have 3 groups. In many textbooks, they use u verb, ru verb, or irregular verbs distinctions. And some, I suppose, most textbooks, they tie them into like group 1. Group 1 equals u verb, group 2 equals ru verbs, and group 3 means irregular verbs. And we only have 2 irregular verbs in Japanese. That is important. Some textbooks might have you say like the third one, like benkyou suru, which is to study. But it's because we don't have the verb to study or to do the laundry. Like in English as well, right? You wouldn't have the verb to, like, I have laundried, right? I have done my laundry, right? So similarly, we don't really have many verbs for activities that usually expressed in verbs in English. And 勉強 means the study, the noun. And 勉強する is to do the studying. So basically, they sometimes include the 勉強するas a combination with a noun and する, but essentially, する is the conjugation, the part that conjugates. So, I mean, yeah, there are only two irregular verbs. And 来る is fairly to come. It's very, we don't really use it as much. In English, you can say, when your friend is calling, and because you're not showing up at the party, like, where are you? And you might say, oh yeah, I'm in the car, I'm coming in 5 minutes. You can say, use the word to come to indicate you are moving towards. But, in English too, grammatically speaking, that's incorrect, strictly speaking. But in Japanese, that comes up more in front. And we never use kuru to mean the subject moving towards somewhere. It's always iku, the word to go, is used. And the word to come is always used when someone is coming, or something, like a spring, for instance, comes, right? And so naturally, this, unless you want to explain like situations where your friends come to your house, that someone finally came, and so on, we don't use that. So this is a fairly, even though it's a regular, the one of the two irregular verbs, this is much less often used. Mostly we do use suru to do a fair la cuisine in Francais, right? Similar kind of a situation. There's a lot more situation where we use to do in Japanese. So suru is basically the only, exaggerating, of course, but if you're having troubles remembering which ones are more important, suru is definitely the one that you need to memorize. And okay, so these ones, why do we have these arrows and so on? These ones are so-called, again, this is just a false equivalent, but as a metaphor or analogy, again, it's a false analogy, but you can think of it as sort of like to speak, right? Infinitive in English. These ones are called dictionary forms or plain forms. And hanasu, these ones by itself, unlike in English, you could use them by themselves. However, it does always imply a connotation that it's it can sound impolite, it can sound arrogant, or between friends or close friends, we normally use dictionary form, plain forms to communicate in conversation. So it's more casual and conversational phrases between friends, and it's if it's used between friends, you don't use there's no arrogance or impoliteness implied. It's usually affinity or some sort of close relationship. It's very much the very much casual way to talk to each other. But because sometimes you are not sure, like for instance, like talking to your colleagues, even if you think you are close to the colleague you're talking to, that your colleague might not think so. In which case, when you say in dictionary form, when you talk in dictionary forms, your colleague might get offended or think that you are arrogant, or you think you are better than them. So there are situations that can become tricky, and also within between friends as well. Normally we would add some suffixes afterwards, not just hanasu, like I speak, but hanasu yo and ne. All these ones you might have heard about this from anime, but we tend to use suffixes to kind of soften the tone of the sort of frank, I don't know, it's straightforwardness of the dictionary form. So it does have a straightforward sort of meaning, and it does its job. It conveys the meaning. So it's preferred between friends with some kind of a cushion sort of a suffix. And also this is because it's just a straightforward way of saying conveying that some kind of activity has taken place. And these are used in written format. So whenever you read a book or manga, or where the descriptive part, not the speech bubble part, these dictionary forms are used by default. So it is important to start from here, whereas many textbooks tend to start from, well, kind of, I don't know, they tend to introduce this, but then they soon change into a mass polite form, the mass form, which is what we are going to study. But yeah, dictionary form tends to get sort of sidetracked until later in the chapter like chapter 8 or chapter 9 and so on in the textbooks usually. So but I find it a little bit confusing. So this one is, I'm teaching in the way Japanese it's in the way Japanese taught in Japanese high schools and junior high schools, which is to say we conjugate from the basic stem, which is the dictionary form, and then we use a different. There are 6 basic forms of conjugation, which is not, strangely enough, mentioned in many of the English textbooks for Japanese learners. For some reason, it's actually mentioned in French versions. I don't know really why they do that, but when you take lessons with me, I will provide you with that the basic conjugation forms, so you can easily conjugate according to your needs. Now I've spent 12 minutes already. We're gonna do so this one. We cannot just use hanasu when I'm talking to strangers, or say like you're at the restaurant, you are buying, you're at the cashiers, you're talking to your neighbors. You'd usually want to use a polite form, or even as students when you're talking to teachers, or someone you don't necessarily know much. So polite form is most predominantly used, and you cannot go wrong with using polite form. If you use a polite form though, it says polite, but it's not honorific. So you might have heard about the honorific forms before, but honorific forms are very much strict to absolutely socially higher standing. It's not often used. It's, of course, depends on the context. If you are working right with customers, that's a different story. But normally honorific forms are not used in daily conversation. It's not considered as a part of a daily conversation stack. So we use polite forms. So we need to change these dictionary forms into a polite form. And so to change the polite these groups into polite form, it's fairly easy. Starting with group 2, root verbs. So why is this called root verbs? When all the verbs in Japanese end with u sound, hanasu, right, iku, kau, okiru, and suru, and these one, the verbs in Japanese in the plain basic dictionary form, and always with u sound. If it doesn't end with u sound, it's not a verb. So so it does make sense to say u verbs. Everything is a u verb, but the reason why they call this u verb, lu verb, and irregular verbs have to do with conjugation patterns, and it's just for the pedagogic reasons. And this group 2, the lu verbs, are most easy, the easiest to conjugate, and the ones the most notable features of the lu verb verbs is that they always end with, not always, some exceptions may apply. When I say always, please assume that for the most part, because everything has an exception usually, except the sentence everything has an exception, which if it does have no, anyway, okay, anyway, so iru becomes so the verbs in the second group, they end with iru sound or eru sound. And if you remember in Japanese basic format, the words in Japanese, a, I, u, e, o. These ones are the basic 5 words, and we only have these as words. So we only have 5 words. We don't have. We don't have like. This is a kind of a when sometimes it's used for pedagogic reasons, but it's not really. We only have I, U, E, O. This, and to conjugate these dictionary forms. So see, dictionary form is belongs here. The u sound ending in u sound. In order to make this into a polite form, you need to first make this into e sound. For group 1. For group 2, it's already so I guess it's for group 2 it's this is the kind of principle sort of format that should be applied in group 1 and also group 3 as well. It says irregular, but it's irregular only from the perspective of Japanese students. When you think of this in the combination of the consonant and the vowel, it's very much like the conjugations are very much like group 1. So conjugation will be like this one. But yeah, let's start with group 1 first. I said group 2 first, but since we're here, so see, once if you want to change this into a polite form, you take out u sound. So basically, you change u sound into e sound. So see, it goes upwards once, and then plus you need to put mas. So this will give us hanashi. Hanashimasu. Right, and it should give this sound, but we don't have this sound in Japanese. See, it always we have whenever we have this sound, where this combination s and I, it changes into this shi sound, shi. So that's something embedded in Japanese language. We just don't have this pronunciation. So this one is a little bit, kind of irregular. You could say irregular in that you have to put h in it, but that's a fairly minor irregularities. And so for this one, hanashimasu is I speak, and I say this polite form, right? Mas is a polite form. Yes, it is a polite form, but it's different from honorific. It's part of the honorific form, scales of honorific forms, but it's fairly lower down, and polite form is can be used. This is very polite forms. Mas form. I will interchangeably use this, but mas form and polite forms are easy, very easy, very convenient to use because even between friends, there are, again, this context circumstance differences, but just as a objectively kind of as a principle thinking, even between friends, we do use must form if we want to be kind of polite, or especially if your friends you became friends with somebody post universities, like colleagues, right? Those people, once you become adult and then you become acquainted with someone as friends, we tend to use must to show some respect, because I mean you don't really know that person much, and once you get to know that person really closely, then you might start to say these things, or when you're drunk you might start to use non like the plain form, right? But polite forms, what is convenient about it is that you can use must, the polite form, in basically any situations, between friends, between in the workplace, to the superior, to the customers, to the strangers, or to teachers, any persons. You can with must. If you remember must form, then you don't really, I mean, unless you want to work in Japan, like for Japanese company, full of Japanese people, you don't have to remember, or you don't have to study the higher honorifics, which is a little bit, which doesn't really follow any patterns, so it's just it makes it more difficult to understand. But when you use must, it shows that you are being respectful and you want to show a respect to that person. So when you like when you use must, you cannot go wrong. You can just this is, I mean, even if you don't want to really show any respect, just use must. It doesn't really, it's a very casually polite form. So if you use even if it's called polite forms, it's a most often used. For instance, like I use must with my colleagues. I mean, of course, I mean, at izakaya, or like places where we I don't know, go to like Disneyland or Universal Studios or theme parks. I mean, when we are having fun, we have a different sort of talking style, which is the case for most languages. But basically, I mean, in under normal situations, also like writing as well, like emails. Basically, I mean, when you are writing letters or emails to your friends, whenever you are addressing some specific person, we use must, in principle. And once you get familiar with must form, and then once you get kind of a more cultural, social understanding of how Japanese works, then you can switch to a plain form, and then according to the situations. But if you are a beginner, I highly suggest that this must form, the polite form, is the most prevalent, and you cannot go wrong with. You cannot offend. I mean, you cannot offend anyone with using must form. So, which is why many textbooks immediately focus on must, and I too focus on must, but I usually introduce the plain form and how it changes into how you conjugate into a different form. So that's the kind of a different approach, and I think experience has shown that it does work, and it has worked in the past, for the most part, which is to say, like when there's nothing that impedes me and students from learning, like being sick for 6 months apart, and okay, of course there's a time lag, so it's going to be difficult to speak, but it usually always works. So I think it's best to start with the dictionary form, and then change this into a different conjugation format, which is exactly what Japanese people are taught to do in junior high school and high school and so on. So here, 行く becomes this u sound changes into e, and 行きます and 買う here as well. Even though it's a double verb, you just only have to change last u. So 買います and now the group 2. This one is very important. It's always going to be easiest for conjugation. Lu verbs are so-called lu verbs because first of all it ends with lu, right? Iru or eru sound, but not aru or oru or uru. Only the iru or eru sounds. And when the verb ends with lu, the first group, you just take out replace lu with you just take out lu and then you put mas. So okiru to wake up becomes okimasu. You don't have to change the vowel into e. You just take this entire letter out. So that makes it much easier. And group 2 is going to be your friends for forever. And 起きます 食べます I eat, I wake up, I get up. Usually get up. Like 起きます 起きる has a stronger connotation to actually be up. Like rather than being awake and on the bed and just kind of you might fall asleep again. 起きる has a stronger connotation to get up or getting up and actually not going back to fall asleep. So 起きます to get up and 食べます to eat. These ones are going to be the must stem must form is going to be the default language you want to use in writing and as a beginner, right? In writing and in conversation. Once you become more and more fluent, then again you adjust according to how the situation requires what kind of conjugation situation requires. But as a beginner, meaning if you are just traveling to Japan for 3 months or even 6 months, you only need to use mas. If you plan to live in Japan or more than 6 months and try to get a job in Japan, then you do need to sort of go up and then start to delve into sort of JLPT N4, N3 level of Japanese. But at this point, I'm just kind of laying out the very basics and what is most important to go just to go to Japan and to have fun, to understand what people are saying. Okay, so the irregular verbs are called irregular verbs because it changes into with a mas stem, shimasu and kimasu. Now, when you look at this, suru changes into shimasu, right? Ru first of all gets disappear like the first group, the second group, and changed into mas. But su also disappears, and this one too. Ru disappears to change into mas. Ku also disappears and it becomes ki. So nothing in Japanese though. When you look at this from the Japanese perspective, no letter neither of the letter remains, and they both change into a different form. Su becomes shi and ku becomes ki. So, which is why it's called irregular verbs. All of these had some kind of a stem, right? Hana, I, ka, oki, tabe. These are stem. The mas polite form stem or mas stem. So they are the stem, but there's no stem here remaining. However, when you think about this, just as you have been probably doing in terms of English, see this suru, for instance, is the combination of su and lu. Ru, sorry, right? So kuru is also ki sorry kuru, right? And both of them end with uru ending. So if you change uru and then add e like you did in the first group and put mas, it gives you shimasu and kimasu. So it actually, it's called irregular verbs because we Japanese people do not conceive of these letters as a combination of the consonant and vowels. We don't have that conception, and this is the most atomic letter we have, and this atomic letter changes its form. So it's understandably it's irregular verbs. But when you look at this from an English perspective, like a consonant vowel combination, there is a pattern here. Both of them ends with uru sound. So you just change this into e as you did in group 1, and then you just put mas, and then all of a sudden it doesn't seem like it's a regular verb anymore. So that's that might help you conjugate. If you forget how to do the irregular verbs, just follow the group 1 conjugation. Group 2, there are some exceptions. I'm not going to delve into this because it's not supposed to confuse you. These kind of the videos I'm making. But hairu, this one means to enter. This means to enter. And other ones like hashiru, to run, or kaeru, to return. Often it has often to do with emotion, but it doesn't have to be. Some, like on the top of my head, I don't know how many, but I don't know. Maybe I don't think there are more. Out of the commonly used verbs, I don't think there are more than 8 or 10. That it's like if you have like 8. If you know like 8 different exceptions, so these ones, it ends with iru, so it should belong to the group 2, but this is an exception. It actually is a group 1 verb. So instead of taking out ru, you have to change u sound into e, and then you have to put mas. So that's a ha I ri mas instead of haimasu, right? So there are a few exceptions like this. Like probably I really think it's like if you know 6 to 10, and even like you probably wouldn't use these as often. But just so that you know that there are some exceptions that ends with iru or eru, and that conjugates in following the same pattern with the group 1 verbs. But this one you can find it online or anywhere. It's just exceptions of group 2 or something. And now, so okay, this is good. Okay, so now that we know, I'm going to give you, I'm trying to post on the comment place descriptions. I'm trying to post some kind of exercise or some give you a more basic, most commonly used verbs, so that you can exercise what we have done so far in lesson 1 and lesson 2. Frequently, so I might be adding bits by bits. So yeah, come back to my channel frequently if you could, and if you serious about it, and you can feel free to message me, and just you don't have to, just because you message me, it doesn't mean you have to take my lessons. We can just talk about stuff like how what you're thinking about, and then if I think I can be of any help to you, I will be glad to have lessons with you. But I don't know, like I guess for the most part, if you seek for guidance, I can help you, I can assist you with that. But yeah, I can think of an example where I must decline the offer and decline your request. But so yeah, but I mean, like, just I don't mind just talking about it. So feel free to message me. And okay, now we need to move on to the particles. And the particles are very important, as we mentioned. The first two most important things fundamentally is that the verb comes at the very end of the sentence, and the particle has to come after each noun. As long as it's as long as it's not like a student or like a complementary sort of the attributes as discussed in lesson 1. So particles in lesson 1, we did this topic marker wa. This is read as wa because it's usually it's read as ha, as if it's used in a word, but as a particle it changes its reading pronunciation into wa, and it's a topic or subject marker, and usually it's a neutral and expresses a factual statement. Ga is a subject marker again, but this has a unfortunate attribute of emphasis. So you have to, whenever ga is used, the subject that comes in front of it has to be emphasized, like I am the one who is a student, and so on. And we did no, which is what's the most important thing. This no particle comes up quite often, and it might trip you out at several places. So make sure to review no particle, how to use no particle. It's a possessive or possession without ownership. It expresses a sense of belonging. The second noun belongs to the larger category of the first noun. And we did ka, the question marker, right? You just put ka at the very end and change it into a question. This applies, all of these applies here. We have learned 4 particles here so far. Now we are learning 4 more, and we have like a few more particles that are important or often used, but for the moment, these 4 additional particles would suffice as when you are talking with people, when you ask questions and so on. All what is lacking is going to be the vocab or nouns, and if you know the nouns and the verbs, you will, and also if you're, you kind of have to be able to listen to Japanese, but with mass form and with all these particles, you will be able to have a solidly easy conversation. Not like a historic conversation, a philosophical conversation probably, but just to live on daily for 3 to 6 months. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to pose a lot of issues. Even when you go to a doctor, as long as you know all these particles, it should be fine. So if you're not sure about these 4 particles introduced previously, just take a look at my previous lessons and then review that. Okay, so the ones we are introducing today is these 4. One, this is oftentimes it's written as wo because it's we have o as in I, U, E, O as earlier I introduced. But this O is used, it's an verb, and it can be used as a part of the word. Whereas this wo, it's rather obsolete. I mean, it's not obsolete because we use it, but it's more traditional sort of a Japanese hiragana style, and it just kind of started to decline, and now it's only used as a particle. And so whenever you see this wo, it's two things. One, whenever you see this one, it's always a particle. It's a direct object marker. So there's a noun here, and then this is the usually what. So if you say like I'm speaking Japanese, or I'm speaking some languages, and people might say, what languages are you speaking? And this what becomes the O, direct object. So where I'm speaking Japanese and Italian or something, right? In that case, watashi wa. So let's say I speak Japanese. In this case, the translation would be the subject, starting from the subject, watashi wa, here the particle, and the verb. Remember, the verb comes at the very end of the sentence, and this object, this is the verb. The object comes here. Watashi wa nihongo, that's Japanese. And then you have to mark this, because it's a noun, you have to mark this as an object. And you use O as an object marker. And here, even though many textbooks, to differentiate between the two, they use W here, but in reality or in actuality, we actually don't pronounce it as wo. We pronounce it as the same. The pronunciation is not different. As far as Japanese people can decipher, we can't hear the difference between if somebody says, unconsciously a W in front of it, wo sounds weird. So people just actually say watashi wa nihongo o as if you pronounce the regular verb. So nihongo o hanashimasu. Now hanasu, you can say hanasu, the dictionary form, right? Watashi wa nihongo hanasu, that sounds robotic. That sounds very indifferent to the situation, arrogant, just kind of like stating the fact, nothing else. Whereas once you use the mas stem, mas form, then it's clear that you are speaking first of all, like a human being, and you are sort of showing some sense of respect. So watashi wa nihongo o hanashimasu. And now, if you want to say, like I was doing in the example, and Italian. This one, it's not introduced here, but this is a parallel pronoun, A and B and C, and connecting nouns. That is expressed as to. This one is basically, it means together with. So I eat sushi with my friends, right? Together with my friends. So this is important. Now, so because the verb has to come at the very end, and you are speaking both Japanese and Italian, these two become object. So Nihongo to here, and Italian is just in katakana, Italia. Go is a language, and o, again, this is going to be the object with the sentence. So o, you have to mark this, and what do you do with it? You speak with it. So 話します。So that's a particle, right? Or is basically what I speak. What if this part? This is the object, direct object of the verb to speak. What do you speak? Where I speak Japanese and Italian. In which case, you need to, just add Japanese and Italian, and then mark those two languages as with direct object marker. So it's, structure-wise, it's fairly simple. Now, the expression of here. This one, for instance, I go to Japan. Right? Now, this one, again, starting from subject watashi, and then you have to mark it as a subject. So wa comes here, and then to Japan. This is not direct object or anything. It just marks a place. Motion towards, or more like to. In English, it's exactly the to. It's ongoing. It expresses the ongoing motion. So here, Japan is Nihon, right? Nihongo was a language. Nihon is a Japan, and Nihon ikimasu. And this is pronounced as e. Now I'm using this pedagogically, this accentuated here, but it's not. Normally it's pronounced as he in the word, but only when it's used as a particle, it pronounced as e with a strong sort of access, I guess, accentuated. And again, access is not that important. As long as you pronounce it as e, that's fine. We understand it, and that's how we usually, we don't have any accentuated e in Japanese grammar. So, so 私は日本へ, and then lastly the verb comes. 行く becomes 行きます. And here, normally though, many textbooks will have you use ni instead of e, which is also correct because it's a destination marker. So as long as this is a destination, you can use ni, ikimasu, and textbooks prefer to use ni here overwhelmingly, because I think it's because with ni particular, there are other idiomatic phrases that you will use in the future as you move on studying Japanese. So if you get used to using ni, it makes it much easier to swallow the other idiomatic phrases later on. So I guess I recommend you to use ni, but I personally use when I'm journeying towards somewhere, I personally use e because this is an ongoing motion. It focuses on the process of going to that place rather than just the destination. So if you just want to mark a destination, you might as well teleport from where you are to Japan and skip all these process of things that happen during the journey. I tend to enjoy the journey itself as a trip, in a trip too. So people you might meet during the journey, accidents that might happen, interesting food that I might find during the journey to Japan. Subconsciously I've been using e probably for the most part. Again, I sometimes catch myself using ni, but for the most part I tend to use e. And this one, it's just really, the difference is psychological, or more sort of which one you importance. Ongoing motion, motion towards that place or the destination that you want to get to. So 日本に and also, I mean, this is kind of a sort of two kind of trying to sort of rationalize it too much, but when you use ni, it does this get, I mean, this you are guaranteed to get to that destination, whereas using a, grammatically speaking, because it shows motion towards or to that place, it doesn't really guarantee you to reach to that destination, right? I might be going from Canada, I might go to Japan, I might 日本へ行きます and then I might leave, but I might end up in Egypt by taking a different airplane, or I might I might end up in South Korea or places other than Japan, because all it shows is the ongoing motion towards that place. So it doesn't really guarantee you that you will get to that place. That may be another reason or rationale for the textbooks to want to use ni. But I mean, again, this I digress. This is more kind of a pedagogic, sort of pedantic jargon. But it's you might find it interesting, the difference between a and ni. And because a is an ongoing motion and always it involves a motion to, right? Basically, like from A to B. It's even temporarily or physically speaking, it's just it implies a motion. Whereas ni is as I said, you might as well teleport to the destination. It does not involve any motion. So that's another important thing. It is ni is devoid of motion. This is very important, which doesn't often get mentioned. Doesn't get mentioned in classes or textbooks. But it's ni is always used with devoid of motion. When日本に行きます just means you are just thinking of the destination, and then going and destination is separated away out. Yeah. So ni shows a destination, a specific location, also specific time marker. So if you want to say like I go to Japan at 2 tomorrow, for instance, right? At 2 p.m. What p.m. That's anyway. Okay. So AM and PM, you don't really have to memorize this, but it's probably helpful. Go and gozen, and if it's like 8 a.m. 8 p.m. AM comes before, so gozen 8, and G is the time mark, basically the counter for time, the hour. So 8G means 8 o'clock, and go 8G is PM 8 o'clock. So it's the kind of reverse. It gets reversed with English. Now I have this. Okay, so 日本 A is still here. Oh, sorry. Let's use ni, the destination marker, and 2. Okay, PM. So go 2時. That's 2 o'clock. に行きます. So here you have different places, right? Different. I mean, you have added at 2 p.m. So now this at is basically a modifier. It just gives more modification or explanation to the sentence. And again, nothing can come after the verb in Japanese that can modify the meaning of the sentence. So this one also has to come before the verb. Now, so let's say this, 私, the subject is 1, 日本 is a destination as 2, 午後2時, this is time as 3. As long as you have the correct particle attached to it, right? You can change orders. You can start from 2, 3, 1. So, 日本に午後2時に私は行きます。Or you could say 3, 1, 2, any order. 午後2時に私は日本に行きます。You can change all word orders in Japanese in this way, as long as the correct particle is attached to the noun and it moves together with it. So, because that's what substantiates it, right? It's from potentiality to actuality, basically. But in any case, the verb has to come at the very end. That's what I was trying to say. How important it is that the verb must come at the very end. You can change word orders, and sometimes, as you might have heard, subject can be omitted if it's obvious. Like I'm talking to a friend who knows that I'm going to Japan. Your friend might ask you, what time are you going to Japan? I will answer, I'm going to Japan at 2 o'clock. 日本に午後2時に行きます。Would make perfect sense because it's obvious that I am the one going to Japan. But it's never wrong to add extra stuff, and it's the more you add stuff, the more formal sounding and more polite sounding it becomes. Now, if it only just makes it sound more polite, it's always the best. I guess it doesn't really cause any problems, but the formality part, if it becomes also too formal, it can sound awkward at some point sometimes. But still, as a beginner or someone who just wants to travel to Japan for 3 to 6 months, I would suggest you always try to use the subject, because I find myself often using subjects. Before coming back to Japan from Canada, I used to kind of tell my students we often omit subjects, and which it's true. But when I came back, I was working at the airport and talking to my friends, and I often caught myself using constantly watashi. Again, this might be because I was talking with colleagues, right? But it's a myth that Japanese subject always or for the most part gets omitted. That's not substantiated, and that's not how it works in actual Japanese life. Yeah, and so that's basically that. And now ni can also have a different meaning. It can be used as an indirect object marker, to whom. So this one, I'm not going to write this here, but things like I write letters to my friends. I give my friends flowers and so on. Right? What are you giving? Again, the verb, direct verb is the verb. Direct object is the direct object of the verb, and not of the subject or anything. So what are you giving? This what is going to be the direct object, and what are you giving? Well, flowers, right? So you use flower as o, and then to whom are you giving it to, or to giving them to, because this is not a direct object. It's not what, it's to whom, right? To whom is always an indirect object marker. So it's basically it's called indirect because you don't have to have it. You can just say I give flowers. That is a perfectly good sentence. Only if another person wants to know to whom, or more specifically to whom you are giving it to, you can add to that. But it's a perfectly complete sentence. Just to say I give flowers, right? Or I write letters. You might write letters habitually, right? Not to a specific person, which is kind of weird. But I guess Santa Claus might actually do that habitually, write letters. Well, actually they do that. Tuntu does that. The fairies do that work for Santa Claus because Santa is very busy normally. So like at one time I wrote a letter to Santa Claus, and then I got a letter back from Tuntu, basically the office of the officiate of the people who work for Santa, and it was typed, so it was very impersonal, and we don't recommend writing letters to Santa. Santa has an email address now, so if you go to like santaclaus.com or something, they actually give you your email address, and I don't know if you get responses back, but anyhow, so that's an indirect marker. And then now the last three, de. So this is also a place marker, and but place where activities take place. Here, this is a place marker, motion towards, but you are not getting there yet. Ni as well, destination marker, you are going to that place, or arriving at that place, but you have not arrived it yet. De is, on the other hand, you have once arrived, and you are doing something there at that place. That's when you will use it. So, for instance, I eat sushi at the restaurant. Right? Here, you have already arrived at the restaurant. This is a modifier. It's an extra information that can be parenthesized. This is a perfectly correct sentence. You don't need anything else. But if you want to explain more, further elaborate, you can do that. But in Japanese, how would you say this? Well, normally it's best to start with subject, watashi, and then again, this is wa. You don't want to use ga unless you want to emphasize it. And normally, translation works best if you start from the backwards. Again, this is not a rule, but just because in English, the verb comes directly after the subject, and in Japanese, the verb has to come at the very end. In translation work, at the beginning, it's always easier rather than translating one word by word, and then later trying to adjust. It's always easier to translate from backwards. So this one, at the restaurant, right? This is activities are taking place at that place. So we use de. And restaurant is, we don't have I guess, we use katakana. It's a long word. Restaurant de. Again, you mark here, it's a place marker. So you where activities take place. What kind of activities? Well, eating, basically. Well, eating is an activity that consumes time. And watashi wa restaurant de sushi. That's what are you eating? Always asking the verb. What are you eating? What are you waking up? Well, you can say what are you waking up. Wake up does not take object. But what are you eating? You're eating sushi, right? So you use direct object marker o. And then lastly here the verb tabemasu comes in. So that's a complete. Again, you can change these word orders as long as the verb comes at the very end. And okay, so if you want to use restaurant, this again can come with chopsticks. Now, but there is used by means of. So you would put again following the way I explained, going back from translating backwards. Watashi wa sushi. Chopsticks is hashi. Hashi de 箸でレストランで寿司を食べます。That will be a perfect sentence. What if you are using eating sushi at the restaurant with chopsticks with friends? Can you, yeah, friends, right? So here again, I mean, the word order again can change. Usually starting from what is more important or emphasize, but at the same time, something that comes directly before the verb is usually quite important. So direct object marker usually is sort of kind of like resets, and then it gives you an idea, stronger idea. But here this with now with here and with here are different, right? With in this case is by means of or by using, by means of instrument. With here is not by means of instrument. You don't use your friends to eat sushi. You eat sushi with your friends. So in this case, as I earlier explained, to particle that connects noun and noun. It's called a parallel particle, but you can put it anywhere basically. I mean, with the way I explain it from backwards translation, if you want to stick to it, you can just add in front of here, tomodachi is friends. So tomodachi to, make sure you add a particle, because otherwise it's the same as missing the prepositions in English. So yeah, like I eat sushi at the restaurant with chopsticks friends, right? That's weird. So, but again, as long as the verb comes at the very end, you can change orders anytime, anywhere. So you don't have to like put it here. I mean, if you want to say just 私は箸でレストランで寿司だ like anywhere 友達と or here 友達と if you want to say you can basically stick this in at anywhere as long as the verb comes at the very end. You can even you can use it if eating with friends, I mean, say like it's a friend's birthday, is very important, then you can put it in front. 友達と私は寿司をレストランで箸で食べます。And so on. So that's basically that's the sentence structure in Japanese. As long as you have the correct particle together, you can switch things around, word order around. And lastly, I'm sorry I'm going over a little bit, but lastly, this must, right? Before we did a des in the past tense. Must in the past tense is mashita. So once you change this into must form, it's really easy to change into a past tense, negative, present, negative past. So which is another benefit of changing this into a polite form, because with the dictionary form you have to apply another more complex form of conjugation pattern, which you will learn at the very end of the first year Japanese also. So here with must form, it's very easy. The negation is masen. Basically this means do not, this means do, and this means did. And what's the negation? Masen deshita, did not. Okay, so that's basically it, and I would like to end it here. I think I mentioned everything I need to, and if you wish to get some exercise or something, feel free. I mean, this is just a kind of up to this point, I'm just sort of giving it as a promotional sort of a video. So if you have any, you study, if you if you did take a look at my video, and study Japanese and want to kind of practice, I will send you some. If you message me, I will send you some documents that you can kind of practice, and you can send me back. I can collect it for free, of course. And if you think it's like I'm compatible, or it's easy for me, you find it kind of you find it easy to talk to me or ask me questions, then we can keep going on with like on Italki, which is mentioned. My profile is mentioned in the comment, like a description part. So yeah, I mean, up to this part, these are primarily most important things. The rest, I mean, so yeah, I guess I will have to put a list of commonly used verbs, but there is no list of commonly used nouns, because nouns differ depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about politics and like history or sweets, right? It's just there's no commonly used nouns, except in abstract form like school or library or student. But how often do you use that in daily life? Well, I don't remember the last time I used a student, aside from teaching, aside from lessons, like in daily conversation. I just it's so yeah, it's a very abstract form of the nouns that are commonly used. But yeah, to increase the vocab, you do need to unfortunately study kanji and read or watch anime, or be exposed to Japanese media, which I can also help you with. Again, I mean, without any charge. I mean, just if you just message me. But yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, I mean, what else should I? I mean, you can masen ka, why don't you? It becomes masen deshita ka, did you not? It just to make into a mashita ka as well, or mas ka, right? Do you or did you? So ka particle is very important, useful in making making a sentence into a question. In making sentence into questions, yeah. But I think that's it. And so yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. And I hope to hear from you. Thank you.